The sermon was given in 1856 in Newark, New Jersey, and here's the title. It says, "The Voice of Our Brother's Blood, its source and its summons, a discourse occasioned by the Sumner and Kansas outrages." Now, Sumner was Senator Charles Sumner. He was in the midst of giving a speech at the Senate. His speech was about the evils of slavery, dealing with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which extended slavery from Kansas all the way up to Canada. In the midst of it, the fugitive slave law is happening. And so, as Charles Sumner is speaking about the evils of slavery, how vile this is, one of the members of Congress who is very pro-slavery, he came from the House over to the Senate chamber, went into the Senate chamber, took his cane, and began beating Charles Sumner. Well, when this unfolded, a pastor decides, you know what, let's talk about what just happened there on the Senate floor. This is such a great example of you have a pastor who is bringing moral clarity to political issues, right? To actual situations happening on the Senate floor between people. You know, today, many pastors are unwilling to address a lot of these issues. Maybe they're scared to, but they don't want to talk about politics, what's happening, even if there are moral implications, right? When you look at what happens in Congress, there's a lot of moral implications. He's talking about the Fugitive Slave Act, about slavery. This is something we would argue every pastor should have been talking about because it was a moral issue. But today, it seems that no matter how moral the issue is, many pastors still aren't willing to address the issue. Well, this is just one reason it's fun to look at history and see there was moral courage from many pastors willing to address political issues, even if it wasn't popular in the time, because they wanted to make sure their congregation knew what was true, what was wrong, what was right, but specifically what was biblical, to make sure that we have a biblical perspective.